Are you an emotional eater, or would you say that you have any type of eating disorder? I would say most of us would say no, but in this episode, you might find out that you're wrong, that some of your health problems or not feeling well are actually tied to emotional eating. Well, the woman who I love and adore in this episode, you're going to hear from Errin Smith that this was her problem. And wait till you hear her discoveries, so much so that the solution, she gives us 10 things that transformed her life. And you're going to get those 10. So stay tuned for an amazing episode that you're going to want to share.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cellular Healing TV. I'm Ashley Smith, and today we welcome good friend of the show, that health chick, Errin Smith. Errin is an avid health and fitness fanatic who is expert trained in holistic health for over 10 years and is the founder, host, and producer of What We Crave, the Emotional Eating Summit, which Dr. Pompa recently appeared on as a speaker. We wanted to bring Errin on the show because emotional eating is such an important topic that gets so overlooked, and yet so many people struggle with it and really don't talk about it. With people spending more time indoors than ever and with emotions at an all-time high, this could not be more important to listen to today. So let's get started and welcome the lovely Errin Smith and, of course, Dr. Pompa to the show. Welcome, both of you.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me.
You get the lovely. She's the lovely Errin Smith.
Aww.
We love you, Errin Smith. You deserve every bit of that. Oh my gosh, so glad to have you on Cell TV. I always tell you on anytime, on any subject.
I know, right? Love you guys so much. Thank you for having me. This is gonna be awesome.
Yeah, well, you've been a busy girl, you know, and we promoted this summit. I think it's worth talking about because we didn't do it on Cell TV, in the sense that there is such an important message here. I think when people hear, about what we eat or what we crave, food addiction comes up in their mind, and they would say, that's not me, right? So, okay, and then emotional eating, some people might say that's not me either, right? But I would argue you need to listen to this whole show because it just might be you, because this is broad. I mean, in this, eating disorders. See, because I even hesitate saying that because, people would never say I have an eating disorder, right? But what do you crave? All right, because that's a very important question. And that was the question in your summit, but I think that it really needs to resonate with people because your cravings, your addictions, your emotional eating could play in to something that you haven't thought about. So, Errin, I want you to start with your story because you did this summit for a reason and you interviewed the top experts in the world. And one of the questions we're going to ask her, folks, is what she learned from it, what she took away, because this is an area that she owns, because she's been through it. So let's start there. You've been through it. Tell us, how did you get here? How did you acquire all this knowledge that I believe everyone needs? That's why you're here today.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it's interesting. Working with you and all these amazing experts, you'd think, I'd have it all together with, 10 years of this, right? Learning the protocols and the fasting and the biohacking. And it just goes to show you that there's something much deeper that, like you said, maybe some of us aren't looking at. I know I wasn't. And back then, for me, I just didn't have the tools. I didn't have the emotional resilience. But shoot, I could tell you about nutrition and superfood and detox protocols. But when I get stressed, I'd be the first to eat, an entire cauliflower crust pizza and, bulletproof bars and a pint of keto ice cream because it was keto and clean and non-GMO and organic. And, honestly, I was using food, healthy food, right? I've never touched the junk, right?
She's disciplined, folks. Very healthy food. So that breaks my point. I want you to go on. But my point is that many people watching this show, they're already eating healthy, right? And I don't have an eating problem. I don't have emotional, I don't have food addiction because I eat healthy. That's what you thought.
Right. And, I was using healthy food to numb out and I wasn't even aware. Right. And so I got stuck in the cycle for years. And I think too, because I had spent all of my career learning about health, I became so passionate, and I didn't take the time to learn about the other areas that you need to look at. Because if you want real health, you have to look, I think, or real health, you know what I mean? Like where you have like all of these pillars dialed in, like that is real health. It's not just,
Absolutely.
I'm going to eat organic and have a green juice, And I mean, emotional eating kind of sits you down and says, honey, you got some blind spots to work on. Right. So pausing on this, just quick backstory, this will help make so much sense. So, and first of all, you know me, Dr. Pompa, like when I go all in on something, I go all in.
Absolutely.
Like I give your wife Marilee a run for her money when it comes to who eats the most, right? So
Absolutely. My wife has been told she eats like a linebacker. Okay. Thank God she intermittent fasts and does that in small windows. But yes, you as well.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why I love her, right? And I also go beast mode on fasting and workouts and being an athlete. And I'm kind of just wired like that. And not to mention, growing up as a kid, I was an athlete, and my dad was always trying to bulk me up to gain weight for basketball. So I was always eating. That'll come into play here in a minute. But, just rewinding a little bit, back in my 20s, when I first moved down to California, I worked out like a crazy person. It was very South Beach diet, 0 fat, like 2 fat grams a day, or, working out twice a day, spin, hot yoga, saunas, adrenal failure, working 18 hours a day, totally depleted of minerals and fat. And I did this huge colonic detox that I knew nothing about, wasn't working with a practitioner, just whipped up a recipe I found online, completely messed everything up, ended up in the hospital with a grand mal seizure. That's called doing detox wrong, as you talk about. And I mean, that's called a beast mode seizure, as we like to say. But I honestly, I should have died. It was a miracle I didn't, and it took me 6 months to recover, but that literally changed my life and started working in holistic health. And from then on, I got into sales. I was so passionate. I had a second chance at life. So I was like, I'm going into sales. I'm going to work in superfood sales or do something. I just want to be part of this industry. And then I discovered keto. And then I felt so incredible because I'd been so depleted for fat for so long. To the point where I was so depleted, I'd be on the freeway driving, and like 90 miles an hour traffic. I'd have to pull over the side of the road and just sleep because my brain would just shut down because I was so depleted in fat, and keto brought me back to life. When I remember that first sip of bulletproof coffee, and I was like, this is glorious. And of course, then I got obsessed with keto, and I went beast mode with keto.
I remember.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'd bring you bulletproof coffees every morning at conferences. Like, hey, just, enjoy, and fast forwarding, at the peak of my sales career was at the peak of my emotional eating. And even though I was in the nutraceutical sales, holistic health space, right? And that's where things started to fall apart. So for me, starting to work from home, going from outside sales rep, working with doctors out in the field, to inside sales rep, sitting all day behind my computer, not moving, not connecting with other humans, high stress, sales goals that were completely unattainable, fear of getting fired all the time, like the most stressful goals I've ever had. And you know me, I can handle stress. Like I'm an athlete, right? I can handle this. But this was like phone rings, it's my boss, constant visceral reaction, fight or flight, just freak, just your whole body just completely freaks out. And I just found myself grabbing for the food. But it was healthy food, but I was just like snack all day, coffee, like bulletproof coffee, like all just whatever it was, as long as it was healthy, I was just a bottomless pit. Plus
I have to ask a quick question.
Yeah.
Okay. If I would have asked you, or if I would have said to you at that point, Errin, I think you have an emotional eating problem, how would you have responded to me?
I've been like, no, I'm not. I just like to eat. And I am, I think I would have just been like, I'm burning through. I work out so much that I just need to eat more.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I think that would have been your answer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Go on.
Yeah. Cause this was when I was 28. Now this is 10 years later. Right. So, and then not to mention, I would have to fly across the country once a week to the East Coast. So you wake up at 6 a.m. Pacific time, or sorry, you wake up, if you're over in Florida, you're waking up at 6 a.m. Pacific time, you're waking up at 6 a.m. Eastern is 3 a.m. Pacific. Your sleep is trashed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like hunger hormones whacked, needing to eat more because you're starving in your bottomless pit. And then you eat more and then your blood sugar spikes, and then you eat all the snacks because you can, and it's keto. But then you're also working from your desk, sitting for 16 to 20 hours a day, not moving, and you're too tired to go work out. So you eat more, and then you fly home and you have to do it all over again the next week. And I did that for 6 months straight. And that's where I remember you noticed when that was at my worst. I had gained like 25 pounds, and that was including multiple fasts, because I knew how to fast. So I would like shame fast it off. Like I gained all this weight. Oh shoot. Yeah. And then, 14-day bone broth fast just to get the weight off. And then I go into keto and feel amazing. And I'm like, well, I got to stay in keto. So now I've got to like eat all the keto, and then I'd gain the weight back. And I was stuck in this cycle. And you saw me, I was swollen and puffy and inflamed. And
I have to admit too, I feel a little guilty because I saw that, and I knew that it was unhealthy. I knew that you were running an unhealthy course. I saw the ups and the downs and it's like, but I love you, and I never wanted to hurt your feelings. I never wanted to approach you and say, there's an issue here, it's like, and the reason that you don't look the way you want to look is because of this issue. And I never had the guts to approach you on that. I feel like I should say, I'm sorry, it's like, but it's like, I just never wanted to hurt you. I don't even know what the lesson is here. That like, do you approach somebody? Because I don't think you would have heard it anyway. Maybe,
no,
maybe I'm going to make it.
I was not going to hear it. And you know what? I'm so grateful you didn't say anything, because it brought me to where I am now. I put on the summit. It was very pain to purpose. Like I put on my own summit to figure it out, to help other people with this.
Oh my God. And you know what? And it's such an amazing summit. We'll make sure the link will be here, folks. I'm telling you, if you even feel like this is an issue for you, there's an answer in the summit, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But go ahead, finish the story.
Yeah. And man, you should see the people that reached out to me that were in the same space, the health space, that were like, oh my God, that's me, and I was like, I helped one person. I'm stoked, like, because I was just in so much joy and purpose to help bring this. It was all worth it. And so I was going to show you, I even have a picture. I even took a picture of like one of the worst, when I looked 6 months pregnant. I'll pull it up on my phone.
But no one worked out more. No one ate better. And yet she was bloated out, to her point, right? It's like, it was this problem that she's talking about.
And I think
I have to have you tell the story after you show this, right?
Yeah.
The yogurt story, right? I mean,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, this addicted girl like could have bought stock in this yogurt, and by the way, that addiction created another problem, but I'll let you tell the story. Okay, let me see the picture.
Yes, I just had it, and of course, like my phone is, there we go. All right, so this is, I don't know how many years ago, but look, does Errin look pregnant there? Yes, she does. Nope, that's just bloatedness.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. It's
like that all the time. And I was just thinking, it's just because I had, some erythritol, and I'm just, it's fine. It'll go down. Yeah. And granted, erythritol was part of the problem, which we'll get to, but it's just funny because the most ironic thing was I was the most educated I had ever been about health, and somehow I was the most exhausted, not really happy, adrenal fatigue, like, numbing out, not to mention impulse shopping and retail therapy. That's another conversation, right? Because it was just like, well, it's healthy. So it made me okay. It was okay. You can just do it, and I didn't care. I had like the efforts for like 6 months, whereas like, I just didn't care. And I just became so fascinated because I'm like, I'm still doing this and I know better. Right. And I repeated it. And so here we are with the summit.
I think so many of my viewers really can relate to that, because so many of my viewers are healthy. They do healthy things, but yet they're still searching and looking for that thing to get where they want to be, and they're going through this, right? And that's why I think this is such an important show.
And one more thing, which is so interesting, is when I just said, you know what, I'm going to get to the bottom of this and figure this out. because if I can just figure out why it's happening, not just what to do when it happens, like fast, but like, why is this happening? I can get to the bottom of this and actually change my brain. And so I started filming these interviews right before COVID, and then COVID lockdown hits, enter the worst emotional eating epidemic of all time, and my summit launches. I was like, well, if this isn't divinely timed, I don't know what is, right? So
absolutely.
Here we are.
All right.
Yeah. So
yogurt story.
Oh, the yogurt story.
Gonna let you forget.
Oh gosh. So, this, being in California, they have like the healthiest stuff everywhere. And when I was fasting and in keto, like there's people who can do dairy, like the straight from the farm dairy, right? Where it's,
I'm one of them. I'm great with it. No problem.
Yeah. And before I had cut out dairy a long time ago. Well, I was like, well, I'm keto now, so I can add it back in. And these like literally jars of full fat dairy, like this,
amazing, by the way.
full of these amazing, like probiotic, like just filled with this, it's fermented. It's amazing. You feel amazing. Like all the good chemicals that are made in your gut go up to your brain. You just feel alive. So of course I got hooked on that. So I would do sometimes 3 of those a day. Do you know how much full fat dairy that is for someone that is not supposed to have dairy? And it just goes to show you that sometimes certain things are not just because it works for.
And I would argue that one of the benefits of that product was it was like a fully fermented product, really fermented. I mean, if you let these things sit, the darn tops would blow off. I mean, they would pour out. That's how fermented it was. You had SIBO unknowingly. It's like, and you were putting all of this probiotic into a SIBO situation, which is an absolute disaster for people, right? So again, a little bit of it, okay, maybe you did okay, but you were putting this in these bacteria were building up in your small intestine. And, and that was even a bigger problem than just the dairy itself, honestly. I've watched that happen to other people with fermented foods. And this one was a powerhouse, and it built up in your small intestine.
Right. But I was like, but it's good for me, so I can keep eating it. I know. Right. When I'm like, I remember taking that yogurt and eating it because it was the only thing that made me feel good amongst all the stress. So it was like, I didn't want to hear it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We actually we crave the things that are actually oftentimes creating a problem, oddly, right? We crave foods that we're literally have become intolerant to, right? It's the weirdest thing. It's like, and then you just want more of that, right? And whether it's the xylitol, erythritol sweeteners, or whatever it is, it's like we start doing that. And we're realizing that the addiction is part of this craving. It's odd.
Oh yeah. I remember telling you, like, I am addicted to this yogurt. I was like, is it possible to be addicted to yogurt? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Right. So I have, 35 interviews later, a summit with, these top takeaways. There's like 50, but
I asked you to narrow it down to 10.
Yeah.
I said, let's bring my viewers 10 of what you learned that changed your life. Right. Yeah. I mean, here you are, totally different place, the best Errin I know. And these 10 things, narrowed it down. Let's start. Let's give a little bit to each of them. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to keep this as quick as I can. There's so much to this. So it's really just the tip of the iceberg. But one of the the things that hit me the hardest, I interviewed Trisha Nelson. She said, you don't have an eating problem, you have a living problem. And that was probably one of the most powerful quotes that hit me, that I was like, oh man, because as one of the characteristics of someone that emotionally eats or stress eats is that we have a lack of boundaries and that we're people pleasers. And with myself, with family, with friends, with work, you name it, that was me. And I couldn't stand up to my boss. I couldn't say no to other people. I'm like, oh, I'll work till 2 a.m. on that project. Sure, no problem. Because, I don't have a husband or kids or, so I can do it. And, I would sacrifice my health just to get this approval, right? This validation that I was seeking. And it drove me into the ground. And, I was choosing all of it. And I was really unaware of the way I was running my life. And so I had to take some inventory and look at, like, what am I doing and what can I change? And depending on, everyone's different, but we all know that one thing that we're like, I can change that there. I can adjust that here. Like, I can say no to this. It just takes some time and some self-reflection
and some work. And this is all internal work stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one. I mean, there was times where I'd be like, I don't have the budget for that snowboard trip, but I'm going anyways. And it was like the same area in my life where I was overeating and like saying F it to, just eating all the food. I would say that with my budget, with finances, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it
So
definitely,
you had a life problem, like you said,
right.
beyond that. So it wasn't like, okay, I have to control this. When you had a realization this was extending into your entire life on everything.
Right.
And that brought it to another level of consciousness, another level of, because I know you, Errin, you desire to help people, you desire to be successful in every aspect. You realize, oh my gosh, I'm going to help nobody and I'm not going to be successful. This is ruining my existence. So, all right. So that was part of it. Another one.
Another one is the gut, which you talk about a lot. The gut is the center of the universe for health. And if our guts aren't working, which mine clearly was not, enter brain fog, depression, anxiety, exhaustion, emotional eating, stuckness, all the things. And, for me, I was like, oh, my gut's fine. No, clearly there was a problem, And so I interviewed Dr. Zach Bush, who you talk about all the time, about how delicate our lining is, where all of those feel-good chemicals are made. And when that lining falls apart, which it's only half of take a hair and chop it in half, and that's how thin our lining is. I mean, when that thing falls apart, it's like everything collapses around it, from physical, emotional, like everything, and we talked about glyphosate, toxins, sugar, alcohol, processed food, anything, including even like healthy stuff it can tear the lining, like including stress.
Like the yogurt, when those good bacteria got overbuilt in your small intestine, you're bloating. SIBO is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. And in that case, it was a healthy bacteria, but look at the symptoms it could cause.
Right. And so, if our gut is supposed to make these feel-good chemicals, our serotonin, dopamine, all these things, and we're not making it in our lining because it's just destroyed, of course we're going to reach for the food, because we want that dopamine hit from the food, because our guts are not making what they're supposed to making to get us to feel good. Yeah. And so that was major. We have to fix the gut, or else we're going to be stuck in this crappy state of emotional just stuckness. And you talk about the power of Ion Biome, which was formerly Restore, as a supplement that's a game changer for the leaks and the tears, and getting the gut to like turn on and function again.
I use it in every program because you're right, the leaks and the tears, that's what it does. And I want people to hear this too. Some people go, I don't have a gut issue. I've seen this a lot. And it's like, well, they just don't have like problems digesting things. And so they think they don't have a gut problem, but a lot of that microbiome is how your brain works. And that's, to your point, is this can be off as the symptom, not the digestive problem after you eat. I can eat anything, I'm fine. Meanwhile, the microbiome is off and it affects this brain. And that can be part of this addiction and emotional eating. So, okay, third one.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I think everyone that, we're exposed to glyphosate every day, no one's escaping it. It's got to be, you have to put up that armor every day if you want to even, be out in the world. Like, it's mandatory now. And then speaking of toxins, I interviewed you, of course, and you shared your story of the toxic overload, and how toxins are connected to emotional eating, weight gain, weight loss resistance. And if we're not looking at those, like you always talk about, it's a center point of so many problems. And, again, like, you feel like crap from the toxins, you're going to need a dopamine hit. You're going to reach for that food. You're always going to be stuck in that cycle, which you talked a lot about, that you went through it too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And so, of course, I'm sure you probably don't need to speak to that, because you're always talking about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was, I was encouraging you to continue brain phases, because it's the deep-rooted toxins in the brain that oftentimes lead to the problems, because your pituitary hypothalamus controls your whole hormonal system, your endocrine system. And that's why people end up with cravings. That's why people have, leptin resistance. And, so that can lead to the physiological craving of food as well. So anyways, okay. Yeah. Keep going.
That's That's why we got to get to the cell to get well, right? All right. And then the next one is inherited trauma. This is another big one. I interviewed Bobby Vogel with Etheric Medicine, talking about how when we experience trauma, whether that's physical, mental, emotional, that energy gets stuck. Man, if we don't release that, that can just lead to stress and anxiety and depression and stuckness. And again, we're reaching for the food because we've got this trauma that we don't even realize we have. And that actually can carry over from past generations through DNA, which I know you talk a lot about. So I actually took a hard look at my parents and their parents and just sort of the generational trauma that they experienced. And there was so much not feeling safe, abandonment, scarcity, oh my gosh, how like you have to earn your love, you have to earn everything, you can't just receive anything, lack of self-love, lack of worthiness. My mom felt that her entire life when she was pregnant with me. So no wonder my subconscious needed some work in those areas with those trapped emotions, right?
I'm going to ask the question what you actually did about it. But what I have found, and by the way, trapped emotions and traumas, it's no different than a toxin gets trapped in the cell. This does as well. It literally is in you like a toxin. Sometimes just the conscious thought of the awareness of, oh my gosh, I have this, is enough to actually let the body let go of it. But what else did you do now that you realized, oh my gosh, I have all these trapped trauma?
Yeah, the awareness for sure. Releasing it. There's several different techniques. One is through breath work, and kind of like how Hank, your doctor that one of your platinum
Dr.
doctors.
Hank helped did a lot of this with you too, which love Dr. Hank.
Oh my gosh, so much work where you're actually thinking of the emotion and pulling it out through the breath, through targeting those organs that it's stored in.
Ashley, we'll make sure we put Dr. Hank's information here. He has a practice in Laguna Beach. He does this work, emotional work. So we'll give Hank kudos and let's send some people to him. But go ahead. Finish.
Yeah. And he's amazing. I remember I would just walk in and he would just go bing, 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 and it would just bawl like tears. And I had dad issues that I didn't even know about, right? That are just in there that we just are not aware of. And so when I interviewed, Bobby, she had talked about just being aware of it and understanding that there is purpose in all of this, and that you can go from victim mindset to growth mindset and help your story can help so many other people. It completely changes the way you see your life.
You have to look back once you realize that this could be a problem, look back at those, and then you have to change the way you think about it, right? So you have to change the perception. Your perception becomes your reality. So you realize, oh my gosh, I needed that to become who I am today. But part of that has to be, you have to start speaking about it to people that way. You have to talk about, oh, let me tell you why I had abandonment. And then you have to speak, but let me tell you why I needed that, right? So speaking, the thoughts are one thing. You have to change the way you think about it. But then it's more magical, even the way you speak about it to other people, which takes you, it's like the detox. It's almost like you have to let it out. And then you start reprogramming your subconscious the more you speak at it differently, how important that was. I had to do that with my dyslexia. I thought it made me a dumbass because I couldn't read, until 6th, 7th grade. And I had traumas to that. Not unknowingly, they were stored in me. It wasn't until I started realizing, oh my gosh, this made me be able to do this. I could do this because of this. So that made me great. You have to speak that though.
Right. And I will tell you, doing these interviews on the summit and doing these types of things,
part of your healing.
Listen to the summit over and over again. You rewire your brain just from listening, right? So it's the power of speaking, listening. It's amazing. Next one, that sounds like basic, but it is everything. And I'm not talking about like just sleeping. I'm talking about the deep, restful REM sleep we're supposed to be getting. Even if it's 4 hours, if you're a mom that only gets 4 hours a night, it's 4 hours of deep, restful sleep. And man, because when I didn't sleep, I was an emotional eating basket case, bottomless pit. And for me, that was everything. And so when I was able to just figure out how to get good sleep, which I interviewed Barton Scott, he's got an amazing magnesium supplement that I had the best sleep of my life. It's from Upgraded Formulas. And literally 8 hours of
by the way, we interviewed him here as well. Y'all can go watch that episode on how to test for that. but he puts together some great products. I use that magnesium as well.
Yeah. And you know how picky we are, right? We're picky. Like I won't recommend anything unless I am sold for life, and I have huge expectations. So when I'm at Barton, I was like, okay, let's try this. Let's see. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was sleeping so well. There were some days I didn't even need coffee, which is like, you know, you're getting sleep when you feel rested like that. And just how it is, you know, sleep is the one thing that can either destroy everything or change everything. And it's the one, you know, it's the one most powerful hack, from your mood to cortisol, ability to burn fat, store fat, hormones, hunger levels, recovery, detox, repair. You know, if you're not getting sleep, anything you're doing, it's not gonna, your body can't put the pieces together, right? You got to get that sleep.
Yep. Great.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's see, let me go through my list here.
You'll have to get the Summit because in it, all these sleep things that you did to increase your deep sleep, they're in there. Obviously, we don't have time on this show, but that's why you need the Summit. And again, Summit link we're going to put right here so you can get the Summit. Amazing. So go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And, you know, just going back to the eating habits and the snacking, that is, I remember when I was sleep deprived, I would rage Whole Foods and just be like, throw it all in my cart, and I would annihilate it.
I remember
you know
like
what I
a seminar. I'd see you at a seminar, and you came with bags of food. I mean, no, you always were prepared.
Always.
Like, I mean, you know, like I would be like, I wouldn't even think about it, right? I'd be like, you know, okay, so we have the center, and you'd be like, oh, I have this and I have this. I'm like, oh wow, you know, it's like, it's not even in my conscious, right? It's like, but you were like literally, and I was blessed because you'd like give me things. It'd be like, oh, cool, right? You'd have the drinks, you'd have this.
Oh my gosh, I would have everything, and it was my love language for sure.
Oh, yeah,
but you're like, geez, Errin, like I was always thinking about my next meal. I was always like, what do I get to eat next? What is happening, right? And that's the thing, is those damn snacky foods, even if it's healthy, that is part of the problem, because I was never satisfied on those snacky foods, no matter if it's a bulletproof bar with, you know, whatever. Like I was always like, this is my body. Your body is wired for whole food, and anything else you will never be satisfied. So you want to change the game, just focus on whole foods. When someone told me that, I was like, I think it was Meredith. I was like, no, that's too easy. Like, And then I was like, oh my God, it is so true. You are so nourished with whole foods. It's such an easy hack, but it's like, why do we not do it? Right.
Yeah, because everybody wants their addiction. So when people come from the addiction of the typical snacks, they find the healthy addictions. And what does it do to us, right, as human goes, they feel a little better about it, right? This just happened, right? So our CEO, Roy, who we know, right? Roy was sitting back on the airplane, and we were on the same flight heading to a funeral together. And this huge man sat next to him, and they had the whole bag of food. And all they did was eat, him and his wife, the whole flight. Okay, the whole flight. And at the end, okay, then of course, when the woman came up to ask, would you like something to drink? Guess what he said? Diet Coke. See, because that makes him feel a little bit better, right? The low fat label makes us feel a little bit better. The keto label, right? Keto, it's just a label, but it makes you feel better about your choice. And by the way, at the end of that flight, they had to have someone come on the plane and get him out of the chair. This happens every time. They had a special wheelchair. He was eating himself into that, you know, obesity. Sad, right? I mean, talk about addicted. But the point I'm making, though, is the Diet Coke, the keto label, those snacks, right? We find them in all the health. We'll pay more for them because we feel better when we eat them, but it's still snacks. It's still raising blood glucose and insulin. And it's still addiction of sweet somehow.
Right. And, you know, I noticed, man, when I was wanting those things, it was because of other things. Like I was stressed out. I wanted to just, I deserve this, you know? And yes, like we all deserve to live a little, don't get me wrong. I'm all about like, if I'm with you in New York and we're, you know, like in Jerry and we're going out to dinner, like I'm going to enjoy myself, but it's like when it's all the time, right? Where you're like,
absolutely. Big
right. Okay. So next one is all things. And again, this seems so easy.
What number are we on? I don't even know.
We're on number 7. So we got a few more. And 7, there's a few in this one, but it's all things primal in Mother Nature. Like we have to get outside in nature. We've got to ground. We've got to get movement, fresh air, sunshine, human connection. love, hugs, and laughter. Like all the things that are free, basically.
And by the way, that seems basic, but look,
Yeah.
even me, I just get caught up in my day.
Right.
I get caught up, and then I realize, oh my gosh, my physical body yearns to be outside. It really does, and I always go, gosh, I feel so much better, But I fall victim of just getting sucked in and not doing it.
Right. I know. Right. And but hey, you have awareness around that, which is good, because for me, back then it was sitting in a home with recycled air, disconnected from the earth, my feet not touching the ground, behind my phone, behind my computer, no eye contact or love or connection with other humans. And you wonder why we're grabbing for food, because we are craving to feel. And when we get out into nature, our soul is like, thank you. This is what I'm built from. And, we just have to have it. And we have to be around people. We have to have the connection and the hugs. And because when I didn't have all of those things, my eating habits were the worst.
Yeah.
And man, you look at COVID lockdowns, like what is that doing to us? You look at the suicide rate, because it is stripped everything, from us as far as all those basic elements that we need. Granted, I'm still going out, and every day I'm out there now. But you look at someone that may not be aware of how important that is, and you look at what's happening to people, they're literally just falling apart, and in more ways than one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you think about, right, like the happiest times when you're on vacation is when you have all those elements, the nature, sunshine, fresh air, people, love, all those things, right? But it's like, why do we wait till vacation to like do this? Like, why can't I incorporate this every day? It's just, we all have the same 24 hours. We have to it's just priority, right? And for me, I know when I catch myself, I'm like, I haven't moved today. I haven't been outside. Like we get caught up in like, I got this and this going on, and we lose ourselves. And it's like, oh, but we can get it back on track. Just literally get out there and get the fresh air, get the sunshine. Because when you're at the beach, like your appetite goes away, right? Because you got the sunshine on your skin. You've got, your vibes are high. You're near nature. You're near the waves. Like, and all of a sudden, I'm not really thinking about food, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, next one is, and this one, Andrea and Mindy, we talk about this, is we're going too damn fast, and we're not breathing, we're not present, and we are completely disconnected from our bodies, and we call that rushing women syndrome.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, women are more guilty of it than men. I guess that's why you all referred to that as that.
Right. I know, right? And this was so me, right? And so there's two pieces to this. So going too fast starts with the fact that we are not slowing down to breathe. And that was me. I remember back in my, sales days when I was this young hustler, I would kill like the day, crush it. But my practitioners were like, girl, you're not breathing. Like I'd walk in, rush around, talk to them, do the things, and just do a million things. And they're like, slow down. What are you doing? Like, I'm like, what do you mean I'm breathing? And they're like, girl, you are not breathing. And it took me 10 years to realize that I was not breathing, and that put me into adrenal fatigue because I was in fight or flight.
Sympathetic. Yeah. It puts you in a sympathetic dominant state, and then that wastes the adrenals out. It's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I would have just slowed down and took some breaths and just focused.
Marilyn needs to hear that. She's got that syndrome. Trust me, she does. Rushing women syndrome.
Oh yeah. And no wonder your brain's going to reach for food, because it's got to soothe this crazy chaotic state. Right. And just to get us to calm down and relax.
Yeah.
And breath work is the foundation. Besides sleep, I feel like breath work, man, like that's the first thing that goes for me. When I get stressed out, my breath goes. And so if we can interview Josh.
You talk about the how-to. So,
yes. Yeah. I interviewed Josh on the how-to, Josh Trent with Wellness Force, who's amazing. And man, as much as breath work is the simplest thing to do, is one of my biggest hurdles. And I'll get to the next one on that. But man, just having a morning routine and adding that in, or just taking time to slow down. I interviewed Josephina Bashout. She's like, women are outside of their bodies, and somehow we we get a badge of honor when we do 10 million things in a day and we kill ourselves. Like, what is that all about, right? We're not breathing. We're not prioritizing our joy. We're not prioritizing the way we feel. What is that all about?
Yeah.
Where do we learn this?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's a modern problem. It really is. And you're right. We get badges for, being that person, and it's so detrimental to our health.
Yeah. And, she's like, hey, I'm all about getting things done and like going after your goals. But when we're too much in the do, and be in the receiving mode, when we're hustling too much, our vibrations are, I am stressed out all the time. What we're putting out into the world is just constant stress. So all we're going to attract is more stress versus if we can change our energy, slow down and focus on our breath and just get into our bodies, which again, I'm not in like moms, most respect for moms ever, but there's gotta be even 5 minutes in the day where we can just go inward and put ourselves together and just slow down.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And again, you slow down, you're way less likely to reach for the food. For me, I remember I went to Bali with Meredith right before COVID, and life was so awesome. And we were like, I was just eating, and it was like, no, I'm not even hungry.
Yeah.
I'd had these beautiful organic meals, vegan, like amazingness. And I'm like, something has changed here. And maybe there's low EMFs here, but like, I'm breathing, I'm slowing down, and I'm not reaching for the food. Like, this is amazing. So it was a great testimony to, we have to work at it every day to weave that into our life.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last one, which is toxic perfectionism and worthiness. So this one really hit home for me.
Off the last one, I mean, in some sense.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I know. And I interviewed Angela Bell on this one, and she said, if you are a toxic perfectionist, you are always trying to improve your worth, and you will always do everything you can outside of yourself to improve it. Like the badge of honor, right? Like always doing more. And that was me. I would wake up at 6 a.m. and work till midnight, just to get my star for the day, that I did this, I got validation. And I was searching for love outside myself versus inside myself. And so the interview with Angela was amazing because she goes into just our wiring from childhood, right? Which is something that we didn't grow up learning, right? So for me at a young age, I had to earn love. That was the way I interpreted it. And so that's why you become a perfectionist, is because to be perfect, that equals earning love. And I watched my mom sacrifice her whole life, put everything else, for her kids, and she took the crumbs. And with my dad, it was, well, you need to live your life this way, and if you don't, I'll withhold love. So it was like this perfect recipe of perfectionism and lack of worthiness and emotional eating to feel the love that I craved. And granted, like, my parents were awesome. Like, I had no issues. It was just their parenting style. They didn't know any different in how it was making me feel. Right. And so they just didn't have the tools. So we can have grace around our parents, right? Instead of blaming and being the victim. But to just go, they didn't know. And now I know, and I can make a change. And so the way that we can change this is really interesting. This really hit me hard, was that we have to understand that our worth never changes, and it's set from the moment that we're born.
Absolutely.
And we can't, right? And I was like, yes, you can improve your worth. That's what I was thinking when I heard this. I was like, you can do. No,
because God creates us with that worth.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And that is the thing, is we are born with it. We don't have to do anything to earn it. It is ours. And we have to see ourselves, like, the person that I love the most are my nephews. Like, they don't have to do anything to earn my love. I love them like they're my own kids. Mm-hmm. And we have to learn to see ourselves and love ourselves like we love that person that means the most to us. And I was like, oh dang, I'm definitely not doing that, and just when our set point of worth is planted firmly and we begin to show up differently in our lives, our decisions are, change it for the better, right? We show up differently. We start attracting more things into our life that are better because
Yeah.
we finally like have changed that
Yeah.
inside of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I have to ask this.
Yeah.
This is what you asked every one of the people you interviewed. All right. So I'm going to flip it around on you and ask you.
Let's do
All
it.
right. So at the end of the day, we crave what we crave, right? But what do you think we're actually really craving?
I did. Thank you for asking that because man, it took me a while to get here. And after doing all of these interviews, and I asked everyone on the interview that same question, they all had different answers. And I was like, gosh, the common thread in all of this is that we're craving to feel alive. We are craving to feel alive. And so that could mean our physical bodies, our physical health, our connection to ourselves and each other, to love, to movement, to our, to how we feel vibrationally in our purpose or in peace and connection to faith. If you think about all the common threads, right? When you are most alive, do you ever crave food, right? Like think about a wedding, right? Where you're dancing your butt off and you're just so happy, or you're at Disneyland on a ride with your family, or you're like watching a football game, you're at the Super Bowl, or you're snuggling with your favorite person, or you're in gratitude being in nature, or you're traveling and you're like just like in awe of the magnificent beauty that nature is. All of these things that make us feel alive, including our health. When our health is, we get rid of those toxins, when we fix our gut and we start putting in those good foods, like our whole vibration changes, we feel alive, right? And so I think that's what we're craving. And the key, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that's the key, is to do all the things that make you feel alive and fill that cup every day, because that's how we make peace from the inside out. And that's how we can make peace with food, because when you have all those things dialed in, you're like, I don't really think about food.
Yeah, no, exactly. Just hearing you speak that, I was just trying to boil it down to like one thing. And you know what I heard you say? Happy.
Yeah.
I crave to be happy. And I think that's all of us, right? But to bring this full circle, something you actually said at the very beginning, was that there's pillars to this, meaning it's not just like health is not just this, right? You were good at this, but it's this, and it's this balance. So to be happy, it's this balance, right? It's like, because that's ultimately what you just said is I just want to be happy. But how are you happy when you're, addicted to food, emotionally eating? You're not happy. You're striving at that point, right? I mean, all those 10 things, really you realize, this is helping me create that balance to ultimately crave happiness. We crave happiness.
Right. Yeah. No, you nailed it. I mean, isn't it such a beautiful, fascinating thing that this is like all of these things, what it comes down to is this, and yet, we have these struggles, and like how beautiful it is that we can bring this to people and be like, hey, this is like, here you go. I mean, it took me 10 years to figure this out, and it's such a simple thing, but it's just the awareness and understanding in the fridge. It is something else that you were craving deeply, and to figure out that.
And I think when we look at happiness, we can be fooled because those yogurts made you happy, man. I watched those make you happy. You know what I'm saying? But it was an addiction. It wasn't a lasting happiness, right? It's ultimately, it's the balance of all of this, and, that's bringing you happiness. And I think that, there's little red flags along the way that realize that temporary happiness, not lasting.
Yes.
And I think we have to look at our lives and say temporary might be part of the problem. Lasting. This is lasting. This is good. I think we literally have to, check off the boxes, but I think the summit, just like it changed you, will get people, we can't even check off the box. So get the summit. Honestly, it was just obviously a blessing to be a part of it, but it blessed so many. So, and thank you for being here. And in doing this and, getting it out to people. So thank you, Errin Smith. We love you.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for
I had a little guilt about that.
You're the best.
Yeah, thank you.
That's why I love
I had a
you.
little guilt about that. I was like, gosh,
No.
I saw that, Okay, well, thank you for thanking me.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. And yeah, it starts October 20th and it's free. And yeah, just the links in the notes and yeah, what we crave. I'm excited for you guys to watch it. Thank you.
What we crave, Emotional Eating Summit. Be there.
Well, that's it for this week. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. This episode was brought to you by Cyto Detox. Please check it out at buycytonow.com. We'll be back next week and every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. We truly appreciate your support. You can always find us at cellularhealing.tv, and please remember to spread the love by liking, subscribing, giving an iTunes review, and sharing the show with anyone you think may benefit from the information heard here. And as always, thanks for listening.